This is why I want to thank each and every one of you who marched, lift your voices, never stop praying, and continue to fight in my name.
Fight in my name, brother! Barrio 18 continues to harass, this is key, and threaten his two sisters and parents in Guatemala.
What do they do? What do those people do the last 4 years about this broken immigration system? They let 10.5 million people cross that border.
At least.
Sex trafficking women and children, all-time high. Overdose deaths of fentanyl, all-time high. Number of terrorists, all-time high.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia has now been re-arrested, and the plan is he's going to Uganda. Secretary Kristi Noem from Homeland, she said today, ICE law enforcement arrested Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and they're processing him for deportation. President Trump is not going to allow this illegal alien, who is an MS-13 gang member, human trafficker, serial domestic abuser, and child predator, to terrorize American citizens any longer. And he's a groper, and he put the kids down in the floorboards, and the women apparently that he was trafficking were like getting groped up and down. Disgusting pervert. So, and he beat his wife too, according to her, not to me. So we've got Kilmar. Here's what he sounded like. Here is the hero of the Democratic Party.
Un milagro, gracias a Dios y gracias a toda la comunidad.
This was a miracle. Thank you to God, and thank you to the community power.
Yeah, to the Democrats and all of the fellow illegal alien lovers who do everything that they possibly can to facilitate the invasion and the degradation of America by having the laws perverted and broken and laughed at, by having this dude give press conferences on the streets of America as an illegal alien. Crazy.
Por eso quiero decirles las gracias a cada uno de ustedes que marcharon, levantaron sus voces y oraron.
What's he saying?
Nunca dejaron de creer y luchar por mi libertad.
He wants you to fight for his liberty?
This is why I want to thank each and every one of you who marched, lift your voices, never stop praying, and continue to fight in my name.
Fight in my name, brother? That's an insurrection. You can't say that stuff. We had a bunch of American citizens who got arrested for very similar language. Fight like hell, all of those things. Remember that? Here's more. This is what it looked like outside the scene. So Kristi said, you got to show up here because you're about to be arrested. And that wasn't official, but they said, show up and we'll see you here. And of course, they did show up. Fox News was there. They had a little bit more of the scene, and you can see there was his wife. I don't think she's got any black eyes today. She had 2 orders of protection, but he's probably on his best behavior today, and doesn't look like she's, cowering in fear or concerned about his violent behavior or the threats that he could kill her if he wanted to, like she told the judge. Her words, not mine. I didn't make it up. And now they're standing out there together as part of this Democratic scam because this is their constituency, which are lawbreakers and illegal aliens.
Again, we were out here a couple of hours ago as this began. You see people that are there praising Garcia. He doesn't want to go back to Uganda or go to Uganda in the first place, though it's unclear if he's going to go anywhere today at all.
He's out there. We also saw Homeland actually gave us a little bit of a breakdown on this fella. Says, today, Secretary Noem announced that ICE arrested Kilmar Abrego Garcia, and he will be processed for removal to Uganda. Now, sanctuary politicians and the fake news are not going to tell you the truth about who this dude is. We've talked a lot about him. He's an MS-13 gang member. He's a human trafficker. He's a wife beater. He's a child predator and a criminal illegal alien. Well, let's tell us and tell you about him in case we forgot. Now, Garcia previously admitted to being illegally present in the United States. Says the subjects freely admitted being citizens and nationals of El Salvador by birth, and they were present in the United States illegally. Now he's leading protests into our country. The subjects were not in possession of any immigration documents that would allow them to be in or remain in the United States. Now, in 2019, this entire document was created. You see here the Prince George's County Police Gang Unit. They validated Abrego as a member of MS-13. When he was arrested, he was found with rolls of cash and drugs, and he was with other 2 members of MS-13. And you see the narrative here was drafted by the government, and they wrote this on March 28, 2019. They said, at 3/28/2019 at 14:27, detective with the Hyattsville Police observed 4 people in the parking lot of a Home Depot. He approached all the individuals, reached into their waistbands, ditched all the drugs, so it wasn't on them. All 4 individuals were stopped, and they immediately recognized Bimbo. Remember him? MS-13 Sailors Clique. 2 small plastic bottles, marijuana, and other things. They arrested all 4 people, and this dude has extensive criminal history. Officers also interviewed Dominguez and others. Officers then interviewed Kilmar Abrego Garcia. So then on December 1st, Abrego was stopped by the Tennessee Highway Patrol for speeding. Upon approaching the vehicle, the encountering officer noted 8 other individuals in the vehicle. Now, there was no luggage, leading the encountering officer to suspect that this was a human trafficking incident. Additionally, all the passengers gave the same home address as the subject's home address. During the interview, Abrego pretended to speak less English than he was capable of, and apparently he can't speak it either in public, or at least he's hiding it, says, and attempted to put the encountering officer off track by responding to questions with questions like, oh, I'm just dumb. When asked what the relationship he had with the registered owner, Abrego replied the owner of the vehicle is his boss and that he worked in construction. And here's a narrative now that's been released from Homeland. They say here, 4/17/2025, page 3 of 6. They say, this is a combined intelligence unit investigative referral report. The information provided was obtained through a collaborative law enforcement partnership, and it's been referred according to process. Now, on December 1st, the Combined Intelligence Unit 2022 received information that Kilmar was queried in the NCIC by the Tennessee Highway Patrol. Homeland sources indicate that Abrego was identified through official law enforcement investigations as a member of MS-13. Okay, another document there. Abrego, so he's caught with other MS-13 gang members. He's identified by Homeland here. He's the suspect of labor and human trafficking, and here's the encounter. On December 1st, 2022, Kilmar was observed speeding and unable to maintain its lane, and subsequently pulled over by a trooper in Tennessee. Upon approach, officer noted there were 8 other individuals in the vehicle. Subject stated that he was driving 3 days ago from Houston, Texas to Temple Hills to bring some people to just do construction, because that's all they do, is here just to build your house for you. Of course, there's no houses anywhere. There was no luggage in the vehicle, leading the encountering officer to suspect this was a human trafficking incident. All the passengers gave the same home address as the subject's home address, because they do construction on bunk beds there. And during the interview, Kilmar pretended to speak less English than he was capable of and attempted to put the encountering officer off track by responding to questions with questions. When asked what relationship he had with the owner, he said, well, the owner is the boss, my boss, and that he worked in construction. Encountering officer decided not to cite the subject for driving infractions, but gave him a warning for driving with an expired driver's license. Okay, it's like the craziest thing ever. Like, if you've been stopped, you've gotten a ticket. And I don't know about you, I've gotten like a registration ticket. You know, it's like, no, I'm like 3 days late. Sorry, pay it. What do you think? You got like rights? Pay that, deal with it. You know, cops just like doing laps in parking lots, just writing people tickets. Here, they're like, well, you have 8 illegal aliens. So if you had 10, I'd definitely stop you. But since it's 8, I'll just let you go, right? Everybody else gets prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law for everything. Illegal aliens have premium version of America. They have due process plus, ultra max. Pretty nice deal if you can get it. And they get press conferences, and they can come out and give these press releases where they're giving inspirational speeches to their soldiers in our homeland. Says here, encountering officer decided not to cite him, and his driver's license is limited term temporary. Encountering officer gathered names of the other occupants, but could not read their handwriting, of course. Why would they write anything legible? But did not pursue further due to no citation being issued. As a result, he did not pass the names, the dates, or the IDs to anybody. No incident report was created, but the computer-rated dispatch number is all here. And here, now on 10/10, there was an order that granted a withholding of removal. Per the George S. Gang Unit, Abrego was validated as a member of MS-13. He was identified as a member. Chicao from the Western Clique, a transnational gang. This information was provided by a tested source who had provided truthful, accurate information in the past. And they want him to have like multiple trials on that. Well, like, bring him in, like prove that he's MS-13 before you can deport him or any of those things. That's not how it works. He's here illegally. You don't have to prove that he's also something bad in order to remove him. He's here illegally, plainly. That's the game. Now, immigration criminal history goes on. She writes the following. Jennifer Vasquez, his wife, who was standing right there next to him that we saw, who didn't beaten or afraid, felt differently when she submitted this. She petitioned for an order of protection against him, saying she claimed he punched her, scratched her, ripped her shirt, and bruised her. And this was twice, by the way. According to court filings, Kilmar was also soliciting nude photographs of a minor. And they love this dude. All right, so that's what Homeland released for us, and some good details there from what Homeland saw. And now he's being processed. And this person here, Attorney General James Uthmere, he's over from Florida, he says, an illegal alien who was caught on camera trafficking more illegal aliens from the border was ordered released from jail by an activist judge. We saw that in Tennessee. He's picked up by Homeland now. But that doesn't change the final deportation order, and so enjoy your trip to Uganda. But here's what they submitted. Your Honor, in March 2025, the government unlawfully arrested Kilmar and illegally removed him to El Salvador. That is wrong. In violation of withholding of removal to that country and without due process. The government admitted it removed petitioner in error, and they fired that lawyer. That was Iraz Ruvani. Okay, that lawyer got fired because that was wrong. They didn't illegally remove him to El Salvador. Withholding was really for Guatemala, as we'll see. So this court then granted an injunction. Days later, the Supreme Court said that they did have to facilitate his release and take all possible steps, but the government didn't do so, and they didn't didn't return him. Well, we're going to charge him with crimes, and they did. Now, meanwhile, the government said that if he is released, okay, if the Tennessee judge, after he's been charged for his human trafficking, if they release him, we're going to take him into custody. Homeland said, we're going to take him, we're going to remove him. He's going to go to either El Salvador or to a third country. This court was concerned. They said he's going to be removed without due process. So they held an evidentiary hearing and they ordered the government, if he's released from Tennessee, you have to send him back to Maryland and give him written notice that he's got 72 hours before you do anything so that he can assert claims of credible fear. So then on August 22nd, the government noticed Kilmar's lawyers that it was going to remove Kilmar to Uganda. It's a nice place over there, though it provided no such notice as required to the petitioner. And now the government has, without forewarning, it's not true, they did send him a total warning, they've taken him into ICE detention based on notice of removal to Uganda without providing him an opportunity to be heard on his expressed fears of persecution or torture in that country. So they say the court has jurisdiction to hear this, and Kilmar is a citizen and native of El Salvador. He resides in Maryland, illegally in our country. He's married to a U.S. citizen wife and has a minor U.S. citizen child. Now, Kristi Noem is the Homeland Secretary. She's cabinet level. Other people, Bondi, we know who they are. Now, as the Supreme Court held, civil detention may not become a mechanism for general deterrence. Now, here they talk about Kilmar. This has already been litigated, and they cite a bunch of these. And they cite their own case. We've already litigated this. Look, in the District of Maryland. Look, in the Fourth Circuit. Look, in the Middle District of Tennessee. And we've got a lot of stuff that we've already done on this. And so read those facts. In fact, they're also submitting a motion to dismiss for vindictive prosecution in the Tennessee case. Now, recently at a hearing on July 10th in Zenas' court, a high-ranking ICE officer testified under oath that ICE does not begin working on determining a country for third-party removal, or even indeed whether ICE would try to effectuate third country removal until a non-citizen is detained by ICE. Okay, so in other words, you arrest first and then decide the country after. Here, they picked Uganda first and then went and arrested him. So they say this is false. Now you can see it's the opposite. Now he was released to U.S. Marshals from U.S. Marshals custody, and he was allowed to leave the jail, and he went back to Maryland, right? They comply with the rules. Now, prior to leaving the jail, he was served with a notice saying you've got to show up in Baltimore on Monday. The stated reason, an interview. They go, oh crap. Shortly after his release from jail, his lawyer was served with a notice, said, well, Uganda is where he's going to go. We're going to interview him and ask him how he likes Uganda. And his answer isn't going to matter. The government, however, failed to serve him with a 72-hour notice so that before the removal process can begin. Now, he has expressed credible fear of persecution and torture in Uganda, and he wants a reasonable fear interview. Man, this guy, crazy. He wants Costa Rica as a preferred country of removal, so they want to send him to Costa Rica now. Now, he presented himself to ICE. Now, at that time, without forewarning, he was taken into custody. The officer who took Kilmar into custody did not respond to our request. They said, what are the charges? They just took him. Upon information, respondent detained Kilmar, they say, in order to punish him for suing about his illegal deportation to El Salvador, which wasn't illegal at all. And we want a bunch of things done now. Here is our cause of action. We say that, the government's violating U.S. law. They're not giving him the proper time and due process in order to contest all this stuff. And here they say they want to remove him to Uganda, but he's going to face persecution and torture there. What? He's going to remain at risk of refoulement to El Salvador. They've given us no assurances that Uganda is not going to send him back to El Salvador. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has publicly stated it will not accept individuals with criminal records. Petitioner has been indicted. Uganda also stated it prefers individuals from African countries shall be the ones transferred to Uganda, and this dude is not from Uganda. Notably, at least one country has agreed to accept deportees. So man, now they're a little freaked out, it sounds like. Now they're like buckling, like, well, just send him to Costa Rica, okay? Don't send him to Uganda, which it's too late for that. I mean, he could have gone to El Salvador. He had a nice little, bedroom down there, but no, he wants to just pick all, like, does he want to stay at a Four Seasons too down there in Costa Rica? We want an order to show cause. Why did they start this process without giving us actually 72 hours of notice? The judge said the weekends don't count. Can't count the weekends in the 72 hours. They did. They sent it on Friday and they arrested him today. Enjoining them says, do not remove him to Uganda without concluding his reasonable fear and withholding proceedings. Don't let him get removed because this is all violating his due process rights coming from the illegal alien representation, all these people. So that is what they submitted and they were ready to go. But here is the official order. Okay. The question is, Kilmar's in our country illegally. He does not want to leave. believe? He says, I've got credible fear. Okay, credible fear of what? Well, if I go back to this country, something bad's going to happen to me. Okay, what country and why is the story? So we have to answer that. And the country and the why have to be connected, because if they're not connected, like if your why is in another country, then we can send you to that country, because the reason for your harm and your fear and your torture is not connected. Like, they got the cause of concern has to be in the country. Now, the judge wrote this in this order, which is not clear, but he says, the judge, the respondent's application for asylum, so Kilmar, can he stay in this country claiming asylum? No, that is of course denied, because he was in our country forever, like years before that claim came out, and he didn't make it in time. Number two, the respondent's application for withholding of removal, which is you do not send them to another outside third-party country. We're going to find out what country in a minute, is granted. Okay, never argued that it wasn't granted as to a country. The question is what country? And the respondent's application for withholding of removal under the Convention Against Torture is denied. So that's the order. Now, the paragraph preceding, that's the final end of the document, is going to be the conclusion. He says, Kilmar's application is time barred for asylum. Too late, can't file for that one. However, he has established past persecution based on a protected ground. We do find it. And the presumption of a well-founded fear of future prosecution. Now, Homeland has not shown that there are changed circumstances in what country? Guatemala, right there, that would result in his life not being threatened, or that relocation is possible or reasonable. Therefore, because his application is granted as to Guatemala, okay? Elsewhere, the rest of his claim fails because he's not going to show that he's going to be tortured. He hasn't shown that. It says Guatemala clear as day. And the logic of the decision supports that. So why is it Guatemala? And if something could change there, right? Well, what if we could change? What if something could change? Are there changed circumstances? Did something happen? Did the people who were attacking him get imprisoned? Did the political environment change? Did anything change in Guatemala so that he could go back? No, the judge said no. Why? And why does he have to go back to Guatemala? Well, because that's where his family is. So to be cognizable under the statute, in order for Kilmar to even have a claim, members have to be of a particular social group, and there must be a common immutable characteristic. You got to be part of an affected group. The law says this. Here, what are some of these groups? Got to have particularity. It's got to be socially distinct and more. Now, family ties may be a social group, the judge is going to say, okay? So Kilmar has to be a part of a group. You got to shove him with some group somewhere. Well, what is it? What could it be? Ascertaining if the family is a group can be one reason. He gives us a bunch of analysis. And the evidence in this case quite clearly indicates that at least one central reason that Kilmar was being prosecuted in the past was due to him being his mother's son. That's the group. That's the connection to the social group that's required by the statute. Essentially, as a member of his nuclear family, that the respondent is his mother's son is the reason why he and not another person was threatened with death, because they were coming after him and his mama. He was threatened with death because he was Cecilia Mama's son. And the Barrio 18 gang targeted Kilmar because they wanted the mama's papusa business. They wanted her papusa money, man. Give me that papusa or else, lady. Pursuant to unambiguous and repeated guidance, this is the nexus requirement, okay? You've got a nexus. Mama's under attack, Kilmar's under attack. That's the danger. Where is the danger happening is the next story. So the social group is validated, okay? Immediate family members of the Abrego family. It's cognizable. His family is the group that he's a part of. Now, then you have to have social distinction, and they say it is socially distinct and more. Now, this case is a close call, right? But the court finds that he has established that the family papusa business was well known in the community, and therefore the family was socially distinct in society. And so the papusa business is where the nexus is. Now, here's where they said at present, even though the family has now shut down the papusa business, Barrio 18 continues to harass, this is key, and threaten his two sisters and parents in Guatemala. The nexus, the family connection, the where and the why. The why is the family's under attack because of the papusa business. He's a part of the family. The where is Guatemala because that's where they are. And now, right, continues to harass and them. Barrio 18 is still there. Additionally, they've targeted the brother-in-law who now lives with the family in Guatemala too. That's why when you assess it all, the withholding of removal, as the judge wrote in the conclusion, is Guatemala because the family's in Guatemala. Kilmar's a part of the family. They're still there getting threatened. Now, practically back in 2019, Trump was not going hog wild with these deportations, right? So practically, if you got a withholding of removal, it's like, okay, well, you're not on like the top priority deportation list. So they just kind of just let you go. All right, you're not high priority, and we're not going to go through the trouble of finding a place to ship you. Now, Trump is doing that, right? And so all of this this is lawful. It was lawful from the very beginning, but the lawyer that they're referencing was fired. His name was Iraz Ruvani. He's going to go get a job somewhere, probably work with Mark Elias or something like that. We also saw, here's Exhibit F, which was submitted today. Notice of fear of removal to Uganda. Wow. He says, I, Kilmar, hereby state that I fear prosecution in Uganda on account of my race, nationality, political opinion, and membership in a particular social group. What, MS-13? Or your family's pupusa business? I also fear torture or by or at the acquiescence of a public official in that country. And finally, I feat that country will refoul me, redeport me to El Salvador, where I also fear persecution on account of the above-mentioned protected grounds and torture by or at the acquiescence of a public official where I have been tortured in the past. All right, so that's Kilmar's Exhibit F. They also sent this. I, Kilmar, designate Costa Rica as the country to which I want to be removed. And I wonder if they'll negotiate and just say, fine, man, you're gone. Get out and close it out. But this is what's happening. And of course, he always was appropriately removed to El Salvador. And what's also curious about this is there is other stuff that's being filed under seal. Don't know exactly what it is, but we'll keep our eye on it. And of course, this was the entire gang sheet, 13 pages. They came out from Prince George County Police Department, gang field interview sheet. And the argument is that this guy didn't get any due process. And of course he did. He was investigated. They wrote full reports about it. They had follow-ups on it. He had immigration appeals on it. Here's the board's decision. All of this is due process. And look here, the appeal is dismissed. He got so much due process, he even got an appeal on it. And bond proceedings. He tried to get out of custody here. It's all documented and chronicled. The guy got plenty of due process, but Democrats need a cause, and the illegal alien constituency, which might be 30 million. You saw the numbers, about 55 million visas, which I think was total visas that maybe some of those people are not still here, but okay, cut it in half. Almost 30 million visas plus 30 million illegals. All right. Now we see that today, all of that got filed and the hearing took place this afternoon. Here's what it sounded like. Kyle Chaney, reporting for Politico, explains that in the hearing today, Judge Zenas' courtroom with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the wife-beating, human trafficking illegal alien, said that she is leaning towards another restraining order to block the deportation of Kilmar to Uganda, at least through this week, because she's the real president. She wants an evidentiary hearing on Friday. Now, Zenas says that law may require deportation to his country of choice. She said, well, if he wants to go to Costa Rica, and if Costa Rica is going to send it to him, so I might just give him refugee status if they vow not to redeport him to El Salvador, right? So they're kind of like backtracking on this. Like, okay, you can deport him, just not to Uganda. Just please don't send him to Uganda. Says Uganda has made no promises like that. Now, Zenas, of course, is the same judge, the Obama appointee, says that she had serious concerns about the claim that DOJ pressured Abrego into a guilty plea. It's not a pressure, it's just an option. And this happens to every single American citizen defendant who's charged with a crime all the time. Oh, no, you can take this plea deal if you want, but if not, that's fine. We'll just go to trial. And then, of course, it's going to get worse for you because we're going to ask for a harsher sentence. It's called the trial tax. Everybody knows this. It's a consequence of making decisions in our justice system. It's how it works. And if you got a problem with plea bargaining, then you can take that up with the Supreme Court and the Constitution and battle that out elsewhere. But don't lecture us because you're upset at an illegal alien is getting the same conversation that every other criminal defendant is given. Take this deal. We'll do this for you. You give us this. We'll forego all this. It's a deal, happens every day. Drew Ensign says Abrego's deportation is not imminent given the pace of third country removal. So we are taking some time. We got a lot of full flights, Judge. So he'll be around for a while. Judge says to Ensign, your clients to Trump are absolutely forbidden at this juncture to remove Mr. Abrego from the continental United States, says Judge Zenas, who is the president of the country now. Ensign says, Your Honor, yes, we certainly understand that. Abrego's lawyer says, Your Honor, our client is currently detained in Virginia, and I want you to bring him here within 200 miles of your courthouse so that he can show up for hearings. Zenas orders Abrego not to be moved in order to ensure that he has access to counsel. Say, well, actually, if we move him, then you can't see him, so you can see us, but then you can't get to him, so how about we leave him there and you go get to him, and then you can represent him here. Zenas asks Ensign, the DOJ, is my oral order enough, Drew? Knowing that Ensign has argued in Boasberg's court that his oral order wasn't good enough and that he needed the written order to turn the plane around. So it's kind of like an underhanded comment because this judge is biased as hell. Ensign says the oral order is fine. He says, no, it's fine, Judge. Oh, sounds like you're a little sensitive, Judge Zenas. You're paying extra close attention to what's happening in Boasberg's courtroom. You got mad because Ensign was using that argument there. Like, don't use that in my courtroom. So you're pretty invested in all of the efforts to stop Trump. Interesting. Now, Judge Boasberg, writes Chaney, will be very interested in Ensign's agreement to abide by the oral order, given that they argued in Boasberg's court that the oral order was not binding. That was to turn an airplane around in midair. In midair! All right. The judge said you had to turn him around. All right. So that's what happened today. And we got some other people meeting with this person. Here is Senator Chris Van Hollen, who comes from basically CIA family, State Department, CIA family, flew right down there to meet with Kilmar and probably talk with the rest of the MS-13 gangbangers. He says, today I spoke with Kilmar. The courts and public outcry, mostly the courts, I don't know about public outcry, it's from your side, to return him to Maryland, but Trump's cronies keep lying about him in his case. What are we lying about? We just read the documents right here. Do you have a document that shows why the document submitted by his wife is invalid? We'll read it because we just read her words about getting beaten by him. We read the Tennessee Highway Patrol words, saw their video. We saw it. So he calls it a malicious abuse of power. And man, he's fighting so hard for this illegal alien. It's a strange thing. I've never seen him fight that hard for any American citizen ever. Crazy. So here's Gunther Eagleman. He posted this about Tom Homan. Tom Homan was talking about this yesterday, and he said Kilmar is not going to be here. Okay. There was notice that he's going to be sent out, and he hadn't been arrested yet when Tom was speaking, but here's Tom.
Thanks for joining us tonight. Obviously, a fast-moving case. Abrego Garcia's lawyer says the government is, quote, weaponizing the immigration system against him. My question is, what's your response to accusations that you're weaponizing the immigration system, and will, in fact, Abrego Garcia soon be heading to Uganda?
He is absolutely going to be deported from this country. He's not going to walk the streets of this nation, so he can enjoy the little time he has with his family. And for the person who says we're not going to separate family, well, his family can go with him because he's leaving. He's going to be deported. Look, he's a criminal alien. He's a member of MS-13, which is now a designated terrorist. He's a wife beater. He's a human trafficker. He's been indicted for human trafficking and alien smuggling. He's a bad person. He's not going to be here. He's been order removed twice. Order removed by 2 different federal judges. He's going to leave this country in the very near future, and his family can go with him. I can't see who was talking before the sound bites, but whoever said we're taking advantage of broken immigration system, what do they do? What do those people do the last 4 years about this broken immigration system? They let 10.5 million people cross that border.
At least.
Sex trafficking women and children, all-time high. Overdose deaths of fentanyl, all-time high. Number of terrorists, all-time high. They didn't do anything to fix it. President Trump is keeping his promise to American people to enforce the law, and that's what we're doing. We're making this country safer every day by removing people like Abrego Garcia.
Yeah, man, Tom Homan not happy about that. You can see that fury in the furrowed brow, and we can relate to that. So here is what else is happening out there. But before we listen to these weird freakos, let's check in and see what else is going on with some arrests. Oh yeah, 2 Guatemalans where Kilmar's family is currently housed apparently were indicted in Florida for R-ing a 7-year-old. Wow, interesting.
Palm Beach County Grand Jury has indicted 27-year-old Josue Mendez Salas and 23-year-old Pablo Cabon Mendez on multiple counts of sexual battery on a child under the age of 12. Both men, originally from Guatemala and living in West Palm Beach, were recently arrested after the 7-year-old victim bravely came forward. Investigators say the abuse was not only frequent, but brutal. The child was reportedly sexually abused almost every day and beaten with a belt.
Well, okay, so maybe Senator Van Hollen can go hang out with them next and bring them in part to the fold. Now, we also see that these are the people out there who are fighting for those types of folks. People who break into the country, people who beat their spouses, people who attack children, people who molest children. This is their new cause du jour. And here is what they sounded like outside on the streets in their Free Kilmar protest today.
Kilmar is our neighbor. You can't have him, Trump. No! Kilmar is our neighbor. You can't have him, Trump.
I don't even know what to say. Look at some of the hats. It almost feels just like a delusion. Like, are they crazy? Am I just wasting my time, like, trying to, like, analyze what the hell's going on here? Are they just nuts, maybe? Maybe they believe this is their philosophy, their communism. They actually believe in Karl Marx. Like, they could just be crazy, you know, just like, all right, so what can you do? You just kind of let them burn themselves out, I guess, and not pay much attention to them. But Homeland says Van Hollen is not going to stop fighting for illegal alien gangbangers, saying he didn't spend 1 second fighting for justice for Rachel Morin. Of course not. The young Maryland mother who brutally was murdered by an illegal alien. Where was Van Hollen on that one? Nowhere. That's why Noam, Trump, and others are working to protect Americans from illegal alien crime. And our friends at the Gateway Pundit asked a great question of the president about this today, and here's what Trump had to say.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today, MS-13 gangbanger and human trafficker Kilmar Abrego Garcia turned himself into ICE in Baltimore. Do you have any comment on this, and why are the Democrats so emotionally attached to this this man who beats his wife and is part of a terrorist organization?
Great question.
Because they think he's going to be good for votes, and I think he's very bad for votes. These people are deranged. He's not good for votes. He beat the hell out of his wife. His wife is afraid to even talk about him. She's been mauled by this animal. And, through a system of liberal courts, he's doing things. But no, we have that under control. Pam has got that very much under control. Do you want to comment on it?
We've got him under control. He will no longer terrorize our country. He's currently charged with human smuggling, including children. The guy needs to be in prison. He doesn't need to be on the streets like all these liberals want him to be. And as part of this operation here in D.C., we've also taken off MS-13 members. We've taken, I think just last night, we got a TDA guy off our streets right here, right around from where we all work. Another TDA member gone because of this project. So we're going to keep America safe from all of these foreign terrorist organizations, including Abrego Garcia.
All right. So that's what it sounded like at the White House. And Trump saying Pam Bondi is on it. So we'll see. Currently, it sounds like it's mostly with Homeland right now. So kind of Kristi Noem is handling it right now. But we'll see what ultimately happens. And we'll keep our eye on this. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do.